Good evening here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. I'm Joel McCall. We're visiting now with Mitch Olson. He is the head coach for the Central Riverhawks football team. Thank you, Coach, for taking some time to join me tonight after your very important fantasy football draft.
Yeah. Thanks, Joel. Sorry I had to push our chat back a little bit.
No worries, Coach. Hopefully, you got who you needed. I know that
Yeah.
the the Riverhawks are now 0-2 after a 27-14 loss to Ellsworth last week. It was 14-0 at halftime, and I'll be honest, I have the drive chart in front of me, but we're not going to go through everything, Coach. But aside from the first half with it being 14-0, there was some turnovers forced by the Riverhawks. The second half, the offense finally got going a little bit more, got Gabe Service involved. We're going to talk about that young man a little bit, but overall, I thought, not a bad night for the Riverhawks, especially defensive wise, where you're able to force some turnovers. The offense in that first half just needed to capitalize on a few of those.
Yeah, and I think I probably see it a little bit differently. I don't think we were good on defense. You know, just as bad really defensively as we were offensively, if not worse, in my opinion. So we've got to play a lot better on the defensive side of the ball as well, and then special teams. So it's in all facets of the game right now that we're trying to get better.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you about overall. I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but how about that second half and able to utilize Gabe Service a little bit more, dumping it off to him, getting him out in space and letting him become a playmaker?
Yeah. Um, well, we do need to give Ellsworth a ton of credit. They came out and played. They played really well. So first and foremost, hats off to them. They were a better team last Friday night. But Gabe did some things well. We've got to do more things well at all other positions in order for us to be a successful team, though.
Yeah, and we talked about that offensive line last week where you do have everybody coming back and they're just kind of gelling, or almost everybody back. I know you lost one graduate from last year, but I think Nami and I were probably most, I don't know, I don't want to say questioning, but kind of wondering why that group up front on the offensive side hasn't been making as big a push. But as you said, Ellsworth came to play too. So it's kind of both sides. It's that, a little bit of a coin. It could be A and B, right?
Yeah, I think it's both things. We've played two really good defensive lines in both Wanakee and Ellsworth, and there's no doubt that that's part of it. But we know that on both sides of the ball because we've got a lot of guys back on the defensive line too, and I didn't think that we played great there. But that is where our experience lies. I think that is still the strength of this team, and it's just taken us a little bit to get that figured out right now.
Well, and the only other thing I really had notes wise about last week was the strip sack by CJK. I thought that was one of the best plays of the entire night for the Riverhawks. Boy, his pursuit was good. Quarterback Stoltenberg had no idea he was there. Got that ball out. It was a really good play.
Yeah, it is. He's done a heck of a job, and we've been kind of bouncing him around from position to position, just because he is such a talented athlete. There's a number of different roles that he can play, um, but we're missing a little bit of depth on the defensive line. And he stepped in and he's done a great job. So we're really happy with where he's at. He's going to continue to get better week by week, just with the more reps that he gets. So it's good. You were able to see in a game situation that athleticism flash.
Yeah, it really did. He came off the ball well and then got that strip sack for the Riverhawks. And, Coach Olson, I don't think there's ever been a situation where I know a team going into week 3 and their opponent, they may not know a whole lot about them. And Reedsburg is in that situation. There's a whole host of things that Reedsburg has to deal with, and that's not for me to talk about. That's for them and for not for you to talk about. So it's not really about the depth and what you're having as an opponent coming up for this Friday night when you're playing Reedsburg. My question really is how you're assessing your entire team, and maybe it's more of a focus inward than it is thinking outward.
It is. Um, you know, it is about us, and ultimately it's about us and what we can control. Then we've also got to realize that we are playing a fresh team. For 3 weeks, they have been preparing for us. They've got all of our game film from the first two games, and we're going off of their scrimmage. And they've got some really talented players coming back. But yes, I think the focus has been on us, and it needs to be on us. Um, right now there's some pretty frustrated people. Our players aren't necessarily happy with where we're at. Um, our coaches aren't happy with where we're at, and I know there are some fans that would like to see us playing better too. So we're working on that, and we're busting our butts day in and day out. We're trying new things, and we're just scratching and clawing to become the best team that we can be, and that starts in practice. Us being accountable, us being disciplined, us being physical, us being tough. Those are all things that we have stressed throughout this week. The week is still young. We just got done with our Tuesday practice. I thought that we had a good practice today, given that it was the first day of school. I would even say that it's a very good practice. Your first day of school typically um, is usually not a very good practice. But I thought that we went out today and we got some good work in.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because like you said, there's a lot of distractions once you start working that, 8:30 to 3:30, those bells start ringing and then some of the focus gets taken off of the football. But that's good. I'm glad you had a good practice. Like I said, Reedsburg last year went 1-8, but again, there's not a whole lot to talk about with that. So instead, let's just talk about your keys, coach. Inward, outward, what are you talking about this week and how can you get the W coming up on Friday?
Yeah, well, more than anything, we need to be disciplined. We need to be able to do what we're being asked to do, both sides of the ball. Our physicality needs to improve, and then our execution needs to improve, and that's both sides of the ball. And I think for us, that starts up front, on the offensive and defensive line. That's where we have our most experience. Um, those are talented groups, but we need to take care of Reedsburg's run game. They're going to be running a little bit of a different offense this year, it looks like, from what we've seen on the scrimmage film. And then we've got to be able to run and control the ball offensively.
Well, I know that we're ending again. That's Coach Olson with us from the Central River Hawks football team. We are kind of ending things differently as we did last week. You like to add into a question to me. We have not
Mm-hmm.
scripted this. We have not talked about it. I even told him I didn't want to know. So, Coach Olson, fire away with your question of the week.
Straight off the cuff. For those of you that don't know, Joel he's a wrestling fan, big wrestling fan. Joel, I was just curious because I don't know, and I think the people at home want to know. Not who is your favorite wrestler, but if you were a wrestler, who would you be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Good job.
Yeah.
Um, if I could be like a current one or all time?
That's up to you.
Oh, that is a tough one. I'll go with longevity and probably say John Cena, only because for 20 some years, I mean, he was pretty much up on top. It's hard to not say Stone Cold Steve Austin since that was my guy when I was growing
Yeah.
up. So was Bret Hart. Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler of all time. But I would say that if you want longevity and you want a lot of money, John Cena might be the answer. So I'm gonna go with him over the Undertaker, who was also like 20 plus years.
Okay. And you think John Cena sort of fits your style?
I'm a good guy. Yeah, absolutely. He never
Yeah.
turned heel. And well, okay, he started as a bad guy, but he kind of turned that around and likes kids.
Yeah, he's a movie star now.
Yeah,
He's in Hollywood.
I definitely wouldn't be that. But I'm just saying, if I could be
But
one
as a
guy,
wrestler,
yeah, as a wrestler,
okay.
yeah, he only had 5 moves. I mean, you telling me I can't do 5 moves?
I think he could do 5 moves.
I probably could not a Big Show though. That'd be a problem. But that's who I'm going with. 25 years.
Right. I
Next
love it.
one, his last one's coming up this year, next year, actually, 2025, last year, gonna retire.
Is he?
Yeah. So if you get a chance, And if you're a big wrestling fan for 2025, you can't see him anymore after that year. So you might want to go out and check out
Yeah,
one of the programs for him.
it's good to know. Maybe I'll have to go check out John Cena before he's done.
I am going to try my hardest to get to a show with him. And we have a show for you coming up on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. We've got volleyball coming up on Thursday. That's against Aquinas. It's the home match. We'll have that around, I think it's 5:30 is the JV, then the 7:15 start time for the MVC conference matchup. Should be a lot of fun after I saw a lot of the volleyball last week. We do have football for you again on Friday. And I do have an interview possibly for tomorrow as well with another one of our coaches. And of course, Nami just surprised me today on Twitter by saying he was going to that boys soccer match that he told me on Friday he wasn't going to. So we didn't get to promote that very much, but boys soccer was on earlier today.
Awesome.
That's all I got,
You're
Coach.
busy. You're
Yes,
busy.
absolutely. We're always going to stay busy. Coach Ole, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel.
You bet. Coach Olson then for the Central Riverhawks. I'm Joel McCall. Thank you so much for tuning in here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel.